Welcome. This is a live interview section with Blitz Educational Consults. I am Opaire Benson, and here with me to discuss some educational issues pertinent to our development as a nation is
a friend, first of all, and then a lecturer in a higher institution of learning in our country. And also, he has had great experience in the educational sector, having taught in the secondary level before his appointment in the higher institution. He is also an author, and he has authored several books, one of which is Overcomers, and the other is Quiet Time Experience. I like the title of this second one, Quiet Time Experience. Yes. And then he has also authored several articles that have been published in both foreign and local journals. His name is Dr. Valentine Owhorodu. Did I pronounce that name well, sir? Did I get the pronunciation? You're welcome to our program. We consider this program as one of such programs where we dish out relevant information. And the aim of this information we are dishing out is not for the purpose of spiting anybody, and is only for the purpose of our moving ahead together. Professionals who know some things in your area will give advice as to what they think would be most appropriate. Let's all keep the ball rolling for our own betterment. No malice intended in any of the things that will come out from our program today. So, Doctor, again, welcome. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule to grace this session. We are very grateful. You are a man that has a growth mindset. You are a man that has the experience, and that is why you are on this forum. Welcome, sir. Today we are focusing on JAMB. The topic of our meeting is education in Nigeria, JAMB statistics in focus, JAMB 2025 statistics in focus, and then other contemporary issues that are making rounds right now in the media and in social media as well. So we'll begin with the JAMB statistics. And I'll begin by asking you, Doctor, on the day that that result was published, the day it was announced by a press briefing, it was revealed that the results of some candidates of the exam were withheld due to examination malpractice or suspected cases. What are the implications of this reality?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on the program. Yeah. First, I'd like to begin by saying that we have made some gains. We've moved from where we used to be as a nation in terms of our educational setup. So I'd like us to first acknowledge that fact, moving from the traditional system of organizing examinations to the computer-based test system. That's the plus for us. When we talk about exam malpractice, which I think we should have sufficient time to talk about on this program, it has to do with the individuals, the human beings involved. If we don't deal with the foundational issues of integrity, honesty, reward for diligence in the system and by the system, then no matter how we try to make the system, boost the technology that guides the system, will continually face these things, whether you like it or not. Or even officials of JAMB could decide to be complicit in these nefarious acts. So ICT, computer, CBT is made by humans. I can decide to develop it and still compromise it. So it depends on those who are involved. So in sum, the implication for us as a nation is that it's a big indictment to our sense of integrity, it's a big indictment to our educational system, and a whole lot needs to be done. And I hope we'll have a time to say one or two things about that as we move on.
A lot of questions are coming with regards to this JAMB 2025, because the JAMB results came out, everybody praised JAMB, they were happy, and in fact the JAMB was kind of referred to as one of the best that JAMB has ever organized. But the issue of malpractice and many other issues that has come up, for which questions we come, is marrying the whole thing. Because recently it was mentioned, it was in the news, in fact, that about 20 people were arrested for attempting or even hacking the system of JAMB with the idea of manipulating the system. All these things go to show that the results and the JAMB system is an easy target. Whoever whoever wants to access the system, whoever wants to do something wrong, it's easy for such a person to do something like that. That's what all of this, the implication. Thank you for your input to that question. But going to how JAMB should handle or deal with people involved in this, how far should JAMB go in dealing with corporates?
Okay, first, I would have loved to talk about how JAMB should handle itself first before talking about handling others. But you've already asked the question. You see, we are a nation of, my personal opinion, we are a nation of people who, if you ask me, are yet to be serious when it comes to implementing our extant laws. I was going through some documents recently and I discovered that we have laws, that to deal with these things, not just the announcement of any, coming up to announce names, suspects and things like that. Our laws, it's in our 1999 Constitution. I think it's a derivative from the Constitution before the 1999 amended Constitution, that in cases of examination malpractice, it's 100,000 naira fine. It was upgraded from 50,000 naira to 100 naira fine. That should be examination act, examination malpractice act. I think that should be the subheading. 100,000 naira fine, or 3 years, not more than 3 years imprisonment, or both, depending on the gravity of the crime. So it's there. We don't need to, the moment, the truth of the matter is many people have been mentioned in time past. The question is, what happened to them? So there are no deterrents at all. People just have this attitude that, well, I could do anything, the law will not take its full course on me. And that mindset comes because we are yet to take education as seriously as we should in this country. We are so focused on politics, crude oil and other things. They are fine. But you see, if this were to be a political matter, I can bet you that the opposition party, the ruling party, people will not be quiet. I can assure you that after 1 or 2 weeks, all of these things would have been forgotten.
I hope
to
not.
answer your question, okay, I hope too. Let's implement the provisions of our extant laws. If those people are taken to court and are found guilty, depending on the gravity of their offenses, the law says 100,000 naira. And the last administration, if I'm not mistaken, the administration where Professor Rukaya Rufai, the former Minister for Education, the lady, there was a time the Federal Executive Council moved that fine upward. The fine was reduced upward from 100,000 naira to 200,000 naira. I think that should be around 2013. Yes. So these things are there. Implement them. So if we are serious, take those people, charge them to court, and implement, let them face the penalty of their action. That will serve as a deterrent to others in the next examination cycle.
Thank you very much, Doctor. There's something you said that caught my attention. The will. You made an analogy saying if this was a political issue, we will not rest. The news will be on. We will keep hearing it day after day. But it's an educational issue. But everybody in the society is supposed to understand that the foundation of our development is how our educational system is working. You can't be greater than the level of your educational system as a nation. Okay, thank you, Doctor. But I ask a simple question. Can we ever win this fight against examination malpractice?
Okay, I was about mentioning that because you, in your last question, you said something related to that. I'm afraid, no, I'll be quite pessimistic about that. That's reality. Examination malpractice is not only a Nigerian phenomenon. some time ago, I was just going through the available literature in this regard, and later was surprised, but I stumbled across a research paper about examination malpractice in 5 European nations, I think Spain, Italy, Germany, and 2 others, including the United States of America. And the researchers looked at the different states of examination malpractice as perpetrated by students in those countries, you know. So sometimes when we talk about malpractice, we might want to think that it's a Nigerian phenomenon alone. It's not. These things happen elsewhere, but those things occur in, will I say, minimum ways or minimal ways, not as flagrant and as often, if you like, as we have it here. What I mean is, um, let's say about 20 students or 200 students sat for a particular examination. In Nigeria, you're likely to have a situation, truth be told, where everyone in that exam hall um, gets involved in malpractice. And in fact, if you're not participating, you're seen as an outcast or as a novice or something that someone who has some kind of demonic possession, you're seen as abnormal. Are we going to defeat this totally? I don't believe so. But what we are speaking for, or the advocacy we are making, is for it to be brought to the barest minimum. I mean, let us as a nation, not just by the words of our mouth, let's show it by our policy, not just policy formulation, particularly policy implementation, that we are ready to fight this cause. Okay, because it it's a revelation of what happens at the bigger spread. I can tell you, as long as we still tolerate examination malpractice in any form whatsoever, we will still tolerate and be at home with electoral malpractice. That's the fact. If we can't defeat examination malpractice or bring it to the barest minimum, then as a nation, we won't fare well.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for your view. The truth remains that the nation should actually be looking forward to bringing it down, like you said, bringing it down to the barest minimum. What is the crave for university education about? I'm not saying people should not go to school by this question. In relation to the number of people who fail JAMB.
Okay. Well, aspiring to have university education or higher education is a positive thing. I think it's one thing that we're doing well in terms of that desire in this country. We're doing fine. But then you see, it's like having zeal without knowledge. How many people actually know the essence of university education? It reminds me about our basic education setting. You see, the way this thing was designed is that by the time all things being equal, with the facilities, the manpower, adequate teachers, competent, and people with the required capacity, by the time a child is done with JSS3 by our educational laws and policies, you should be able to fit into the society to provide at least medium manpower supply at the minimal level. I mean JSS3 because if you look at the number of subjects provided in our educational national policy on education, and even the revised one recently released, you have things like carpentry, plumbing, electricity, electronics, and things like. I mean, these things that people now go to pay for in the name of entrepreneurial education, our laws and national policy on education states that these things you should begin to equip with students from JSS 1, as a matter of fact, from primary school through JSS 1, 2, and 3. In fact, when I read the national policy on education, it seems to me, I may be wrong, but it seems to me that senior secondary school education may not even be compulsory for people who may not have that aspiration to further into the university.
It's not compulsory. It's actually not compulsory. As a matter of fact, it's not compulsory. Yeah.
Okay, so if I had the desire to become a furniture maker and I want to get into furniture business big time, by JSS 3, I should have been equipped, according to our national policy on education, to fit into that industry in Nigeria. Now, that's on the one side. On the other hand, we talk about societal pressure. There is this um, sense of fulfillment that comes along with having been to the university
Haven't been to
in our
school.
own setting.
Mm.
Yeah.
Just
So
have the papers.
if you're done with secondary school, it's as if not proceed to the university, it's as if you're a dropout. You're not a serious-minded person. You're not a responsible citizen and things like that. I was speaking with a friend who is currently in Germany, and um, the wife wanted to proceed for her master's or something like that, and she was told to do some kind of program just to justify the assertion that she had gone through university education in Nigeria. In other words, we don't believe in your Nigerian certificate. So we got talking, and then um, I, I asked him a few questions, and then I discovered that not everybody in Germany goes to the university. I mean, educated people, literate people. And he went on to explain that the society is organized in such a way that even if you want to be a grocery seller, you own a grocery shop, you own a carpentry shop, or you own some of the things we downplay in Nigeria, see the people that get into those professions and amenity. If you want to own a shop in that society, you must go to school. There is school for that, for entrepreneurship or whatever they call it, either 3 or 4 years. You understand?
I
And
do.
after that, your license to become a plumber in that city, in that state, else you dare not go into that business. So that Europeans or North Americans are not, I mean, the indigenous ones are not crazy about university education. This is the background, this is the foundation, because the society does not make them look less important than the person who has a desire in becoming a PhD or a professor. I mean, there's no, they don't envy people like that. It's your choice. Back to Nigeria. That's why I said we have the policy, we have the laws. If you get into a university archive, you have theses, dissertations, undergraduate level project work done on these things. We are not ready to implement them. So you see a situation where people think that they've not been educated simply because they've not been um, admitted into a university. And so whether they have the capacity to study law or not, whether they have the capacity to study engineering or not, as long as you're done with secondary school education, the next thing by default is to get into university. And with every sense of responsibility, I'm saying it must not be like that. I mean, we are getting into another situation where as soon as you're done with your uh, first degree, the next thing is to talk about a master's degree. And I'm asking, what for? Why do you need a master's degree? The answer is simply that society has begun to condition us to think that if you don't have a
master's degree,
you're not, you can't match up with certain people in society, and that's I don't know how to describe it. It's not rational.
And thank you very much.
Back to your question.
Yes,
it's about the pressure from society. If we educate our young people as we ought to, according to our national policy on education, implement those things adequately. I mean, our parents, for example, and some of the people who taught us were never university graduates. They didn't go to university. At best, they got their MT and they were sound teachers. Many of my own teachers had their highest qualification was NCE, but they were sound because the government of their day took education seriously. And I hope we'll have some time to talk about why the government, when I speak about the government, I don't just talk about politicians. Yeah, you made a statement that I wanted to interject just to say that even advocates, like what we're doing, it's important. It's important because if we don't speak up, uh, as long as education is not as lucrative in their thinking as the oil industry, oil and gas industry, as politics and things like that, we will remain where we are.
My brother, it's not only about the money. It's not only about the money. If you have all the money in a system that is not working, what you have created is chaos. Everybody will want to grab that money by all means.
Now, you are the one saying that because you understand better. You understand better. Let me not say most, many of our leaders don't understand the dynamics of all of
How
these things.
society
That,
works.
yes, the education industry will affect every other thing we do. That is truth of the matter. If we get it wrong educationally, then we're wasting our time.
We're wasting time. Thank you very much, Doctor. These are wise words. Okay, let's go ahead and ask some more questions. If I ask this question, who is to blame? Who is to blame, or who is to be applauded with the state of things right now? Who is to blame, or who is to be applauded?
Well, so far as I'm concerned, we all are stakeholders. When I mean we, I'm referring to parents, guardians, students, school owners, the government, policymakers, politicians, legislators, everyone, including activists and advocates, those who are speaking up, those who are refusing to speak up. We all share in whatever comes out of it, whether blame or applaud. Yes, that is true because we all, in one way or the other, depend on the other person. Let's start with the examination official.
Okay.
Let's use JAMB. We're good at we are discussing JAMB. Let's use JAMB officials. I don't hold JAMB officials or JAMB as an institution. I don't hold them accountable for the failure. I mean, 75% failed JAMB. I don't hold them accountable because it's a body saddled not with
the responsibility of training.
Of teaching, of training, yes, but organizing this placement exam, I don't hold them accountable. That's where we have to go back to school. What are we? It's a big indictment on our school. And so if we use my school or your school as a case study, let's assume 100 of my students start for JAMB this year. The question is, let's leave the big figures. Let's leave the 75% failure in the entire nation. Let's get back to my small school, 100 students. How many of them got above 200? Until I begin to ask myself that question, then I'm not prepared for any kind of transformation nationally. Because it begins with individuals, it begins with individual schools before we have something better as a nation. So, as a school, how many of your students got beyond the pass mark? If they didn't, why? You must do some analysis. And it's only good as I started my profession from the private sector. And to a great extent, I understand the meaning of results. I understand the meaning of hard work. I understand the implication of not having students pass a particular examination as they ought to. Yes, I've taught in schools, and the last school I taught in before I left the private sector. I mean, there are rewards if you're able to deliver 100%. I mean, for example, I teach English and literature. I presented 50 students for literature, 70 students for English language. If all my students hit C and above, that's pass mark, if they all pass the examination, I have some monetary reward. That's how the system is organized. You understand? So there's the motivation on the part of the teachers to work harder. On the other side, if one person fails, I mean one person, I've been on a board, on a panel where we were teachers were being questioned because one or two people failed. the examination. I mean, a national examination. And I'm thinking about a situation where they presented 40, 45 people. One person failed, and the school is asking you why. That's this kind of system we need to have. So if we could ask that question, bringing it at a broader level, I don't see why people should be shifting blames or speaking as if nothing happened. And when people, I mean, by now, you shouldn't be telling us that, well, we had some glitches, we are taking responsibility and so on. That you can't say that in a private sector. I actually did a rejoinder to that drama, and I said, well, it's okay. This is we'll just set a precedent that moving forward, any student that fails, because what is good for the goose is good for the gander. Any student who fails moving forward,
yes,
any student who fails moving forward, just cry, show some level of remorse on national television, and then we'll allow you to go on to seek for university admission. That's it. Because that's what we are permitting at that level.
Yeah. I understand. Sorry, let me break you. Just hold your thought a bit. I understand that the National Assembly had a plan or intention. It was in the news at one time that they intended to probe JAMB. I don't know how far the probe has gone. If anything, I would actually go and see if I will find anything on the probe, if it even started. But these are things that need to be done.
Well, that's about I've spoken about schools.
Yes.
Teachers should begin to reevaluate their teaching methodology. I mean, why should my students not do the thing? We have the breakdown of each subject. Yes, why will my students score 20% in this particular subject and so on? Reevaluate yourself and hopefully next year come up with something better. But this is another important issue. Who are the people to follow these things up? These things are likely to work maybe only in the private setting. Okay.
Yes.
So far as many of us teachers in public schools are concerned, 2025 examination has come and gone. So let's prepare for the next one. But the preparation involves a kind of self-evaluation based on the previous performances of your students, and so that you can have something better in future. I don't want to talk about examination officials. We are not discussing WAEC today because that's where you have the bombshell. JAMB is just for one day. We could visit schools. I mean, there are schools where they openly cheat. And we ask, why is this happening? You and I know that people budget for examination malpractice in this country. I mean, in the last school I taught in, I mean, my school has a high moral standard, in fact, high academic standard. So invigilators detest coming to that school because nothing is going to get into their pocket in terms of money for malpractice. And the last experience I had was a situation where someone was openly lamenting in the presence of students that
it was posted to the wrong school.
I mean, and he was calling names of some schools that would not permit malpractice. He was making calls in the examination hall. Hello, how are you doing? I hope he's moving well there.
Where's your location?
God has blessed your vet today. I mean, such effrontery. I'm holding JAMB accountable. We should hold JAMB accountable for
when it comes to the administration of the exam.
Yes. Thank you. But in terms of the content, the capacity of the students to sit for that examination, their preparedness, and everything that has to do with the academic content.
That goes to the school, the students, the parents, I must say.
Thank you. So those three categories, the students involved, the parents, and the school. I'm very cautious about mentioning the government, because I know we're talking about those in public offices.
Yes.
But I just want us to begin with the simple things we can manage.
Yeah.
I don't have access to the commissioner for education in
my state. You do. I'm sorry, you do. By virtue of this program, you do. By virtue of this program, actually, you do. You are in public. You are in the public right now.
Fine. But I'm saying let's begin with the little things we can do.
Okay.
And what are those things? As a teacher, have you done your own evaluation? JAMB has done its evaluation. Have I done mine?
My
Have
own
you done yours?
evaluation,
As a school,
conscience.
yes, as a school, have we done ours? September is just a few months. So by the time we begin to admit a new set of students and we begin to prepare for the next section, what policies are we going to put in place to ensure that if we present 50 students to sit for JAMB, we should have all 50 of them, or 70% or 90%, as the case may be, score above average.
50%.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So do your part first, and let's know that the problem now lies with the political office holder. Everybody has a role to play. And let it not be as if we're talking about the negative.
Yes.
When we have the positive, for example, if you check on my social media handle, I mean, I was celebrating a particular school that did excellently well in terms of the JAMB examination. So there are positives. When we get to that place, we applaud those that should be applauded.
True.
But I think we need to do so much work now.
But let me still hear what you have to say about this question of students having to show up to examination centers too early. What can be done to address that issue? What can be done to address that issue? Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'd like to respond in two ways. First, I think we didn't do well as a people, as citizens, as parents, with regards to this. The information was everywhere out there that students are expected to report at about 6 or 6:30. People would have, or we should have been talking about this in a preemptive manner. Yes. But now we are reacting, and I don't like it. Okay, so we would have talked about this before the examination, and who knows, that would have
done something about it.
Yes, I think 6 o'clock or 6:30 for that. Even 7 o'clock is too. I can't remember having seen the timetable and then coming across an exam 6 or 7 a.m. Even when you know that majority of the students live on campus. I mean, it's from 8 and above, not to talk about a situation where people are making interstate and intercity movement. It's
secondary school children.
Security.
Sometimes with their parents.
So whether with parents or not, I'm talking about the security situation. Even in cities, there are areas within our own city that you don't move out from those areas before 6:30 before 7 o'clock because of the security situation. It's either your bag will be snatched or someone would molest you in one way or the other. So if you consider all these things, then it should affect the timing of the examination. And it could be easy for the JAMB officials to do that because I understand logistics are made in terms of money and hotel lodgings and all of that for them to get to places very close to the examination journey. So they may not have issues with that, but think about the candidate. That's on the first side. Secondly, I'm still wondering why we should still allow people move from one state to another to sit for JAMB examination for 2 hours. It's because we don't factor in the economic implication, the stress we make people go through and things like that. Why would someone move from one state? You're not talking about a city. You're moving from River State to Bayelsa or to Uyo
or to Abia State.
It doesn't really make it. I like the fact that nowadays you don't sit for JAMB is not organized just for one Saturday. Okay. Yes. You have about 3 weekends or so, and even some weekdays. So why don't we, as people register, you have everything in the database, their place of residence and all of that. Make it that if you sit for the exam based on your place of residence.
Yes.
Everyone in River State to sit for this examination in River
State.
And same applies to
other states
for their safety. And to cut down on the cost of so someone moving from River State to maybe Abia State, or Akwa Ibom State. At the end of the day, the amount of money you spend on transportation, hotel bookings, and things like that might even be way beyond the cost of JAMB form. So what's the sense in that? It doesn't make sense.
Before we take a shift from JAMB, let me ask you this very question about JAMB. Now, it happens occasionally that some students, high-performing students in JAMB, may end up in the academic year not getting admitted. All right. What can be done to limit the occurrence of this?
Okay, certainly that's not a JAMB issue. JAMB is not responsible to a large extent for such things. That's where you now have the conflict. People saying, what is the idea or what's the essence of having the JAMB examination and having a proficiency examination? Because all things being equal, before now, if you hit up to 250, from 250 and above, at least you should have some kind of confidence that you're getting into the university for. So it depends on the course, by the way. Now, a situation where you have people scoring as high as 280 and they're not having admission, it also depends in those highly, in quote, respected professional courses. If you have more than the number of people that are expected to be admitted in that year, because NEC also gives the required number of people that each department should accept per session. So let's assume NEC has given Uniport 50 slots that admit just 50 students for law this year, and Uniport wants to keep to that. If you have up to 50 students scoring 280, and then here am I with my 279. And at the end of the day, if you want to do things right, I shouldn't get admission in that department.
In that school and in that department, yes, okay.
Yes, based on that particular consideration. And I know sometimes, I don't know whether that still happens. There is when we sought for admission, there were issues about catchment areas and so on. Some too many considerations because of our makeup as a nation.
As a nation, yes.
Yes, so number of people from the north, if it's a federal school, and so on. So many things come to play. But this is the point. JAMB has done something which I think is okay. Asking you not just to fill the form for university, choice of university. You have first choice, second choice. You have polytechnic, and then you have colleges of education. Now, there's not been much awareness campaigns about the relevance of polytechnic education and colleges of education in our country, because there's this mentality that you must go to a university. So we look down on people who go to polytechnics or colleges of education. So you see a situation where, for example, someone wants to study a management course, or someone wants to study education, and you've not been given admission into a university to study education, but you have an opportunity to get into a college of education to study. I mean, it's college of education by the name. That is where you ought to be. You understand? But the person feels that no, what's a college of education? It's not for people like us and so on. So that bias is still there.
Okay.
You understand? So people prefer to stay at home and then wait. And I challenge people. I know universities in this country where, in terms of practical, I'll give them below average, way below average. And I know polytechnics in this country that will beat university. Take, for example, mechanical engineering. Yes, mechanical engineering. There are some polytechnics in this country that if you, let's just have it.
Doctor, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's leave that as a topic for another day.
But the point is students should be given proper orientation to know that there are certain courses that would even require you to teach the polytechnic as your first choice. That should make you want to go to polytechnic instead of a university. And there are certain courses that would make you want to go to a university of education or a college of education instead of a university. But we don't have that awareness.
And if they don't have that awareness, actually, even your aptitude, the way you learn, are you more of a theoretical person or more of a practical person? Are you more practical or skill oriented? All those things should go into deciding whether you want to go to a polytechnic or a university. But we don't have any information about this. I must say, the public is not well enlightened about all of this. Yeah. Thank you very, very, very much, Doctor. The next question now is about WAEC, NECO, going all the way to CBT in 2026. How do you see that? What is the future of examination if WAEC, NECO, NAPTEB, and all those other exams become CBT tests, just as JAMB has gone? Let me hear your take on the future.
For me, it's a welcome development. I was excited. I was expecting to get some more information about the modality. It's a welcome development because we are transiting from the traditional way of doing examinations to something more sophisticated. It is. I was happy, like I said, but then we must do it seamlessly. We must be smart about it. We mustn't do it in such a way that we just crash at the outset. No. Let them ensure that something meticulous, some vigorous testing, investigation, planning, preparation, things to go on in terms of testing the system, the mechanism, how it will work out before we launch full scale into it so that it doesn't become an embarrassing thing. But as to whether or not it's a positive development, for me, I embrace it totally, something good. And it should help. I said it should. It should help in minimizing malpractice. Let's have a situation. This may not go on for examinations like WAEC, but in JAMB, for example, let's have the same way we now have in higher institutions. The moment you're done with your CBT, you should have your results immediately. The accusation of having favored some people or trying to deny certain ethnic groups their opportunity wouldn't arise. The moment you're done with the exam and you click 10, you should see your score 50, 40, 60 as the case may be. So it's a welcome development. Let's see how it pans out.
Okay, finally, thank you very much, Doctor. Finally, on the issue of the glitch and the hula baloo around the glitch, do you think that there is need for the appropriate authorities, be it the National Assembly or other bodies, to probe this matter further?
Of course, I do. They should go ahead. They are sincere enough. Let's know what actually happened. What are the plans of the JAMB to forestall such occurrences in the nearest future? Some time ago, I noticed that the mock examination, the actual examinations in all the centers, they were selected. Some people left Port Harcourt to Bonny, some isolated centers, and I'm asking why. Why don't you do the mock examination everywhere? It's like a rehearsal. Maybe saying I'm to feature in a particular play. 12 of us are to feature in a particular play or playlet, and we want to do a dress rehearsal. Only 5 people will participate, 5 people will not participate. You're likely to be setting yourself up for failure. Okay, so my recommendation or suggestion is that get all the centers involved in the mock examination. That is where you now see possible errors, areas where you're likely to have challenges, and you fix them. There should be a report at the end of the day, and then you fix them so that it gives the public a high level of confidence. So going forward, all the JAMB centers should be made to participate in the mock examination. As for, I don't want to buy into the ethnic sentiment, but they should just do their job, even if certain things are questionable. But I don't have any evidence. I don't have facts regarding to those accusations about
the truth remains. The truth remains that we don't have the facts, but we want to hear. We want to hear the truth. We want to hear the truth.
Yes, and If we want to hear the truth, in cases like this, you don't become a judge in your own matter. So there
No,
should
we
be a
shouldn't.
third party. Yeah,
Yes.
there should be a third party, a private, maybe IT firm to be brought into the picture to do that investigation. JAMB shouldn't investigate itself. Even if JAMB wants to investigate itself, it should be for their own institutional consumption. But for us as a nation, in cases like this, a third party, a neutral person or party should come into the picture and do a thorough investigation. That would boost public confidence in the investigation.
Thank you very much. Now that WAEC is about joining, NECO is about joining, is it not high time that the government kind of invests in CBT centers that will not only serve the purpose of JAMB, maybe WAEC, NECO, and other examinations?
It's a no-no for me. It's a no-no for me. Let's allow the private individuals to do the CBT thing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Doctor. From this conversation, it is obvious that when there is will, there is always a way. First of all, let there be will on the part of our leaders that they are not only doing the talking, but they are walking it. They are showing the walking. We need to see more walking, and the walkings will show in the transformation of the results. Let it happen that in 2026, we are seeing a different result. Let there be an end to the 12-year trend of failure, and then there is an improvement in our results. Then secondly, let policies that are working in private sectors, in institutions that are result-oriented, be implemented in our government system for the sake of the general population, for the majority of our learners. Let such policy that are result-oriented, that are performance-driven, with motivation and the likes and all of those things. The desire and interest of teachers to see their children progress, to do self-evaluation on their job, to see how much have I affected these children. WAEC is coming, JAMB is coming. Your responsibility is not just WAEC, it is JAMB as well. We need to see our children make progress, because their progress is a judgment of our performance as teachers. They were handed over to us despite the constraints. Everybody is facing constraints. Families are facing constraints. There are reasons why we should do this and not that, do the wrong and not right. But we should all stick to the right. And ultimately, the government that is in the middle of all these things with the authority to determine how things go should actually sit up to their responsibility and do the needful for the betterment of all of us. I must appreciate your presence and the honesty and openness you have applied to this conversation. We pray that the people who are in their quarters should get to hear what they have to hear, and the change will be for all of us for the better. Thank you very much, Doc. We look forward to seeing you again. Let's give you the floor to say some last word to our audience. Last word of hope, or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. On a final note, I'd like to speak to students and parents particularly. We could go on and on and on to talk about the government and people up there, but we have a major role to play as students and as parents. And I'd like us to evaluate our culture of study. Okay, as a people, live your life in comparison to other nations, other clients, and you see that hard work pays. And a country who gives priority to education has a hope, has a future. So get back to the place of study, get back to that habit of reading. There's no alternative to academic excellence apart from study. So let me there's hope for everyone who would be diligent in studying. And
thank you very much.
For those, okay.
I remind you, our audience, that Dr. Valentine Owhorodu, please pronounce that surname again.
Owhorodu.
Owhorodu is a lecturer and author. You can take advantage of the fact that you now know these books by him. Overcomers is a book he authored, and also there is one I like the title so much, titled Quiet Time Experience. Look into that and see what wisdom you can take from them, just as much as you have seen wisdom displayed in this forum today. Thank you very much, Dr. T. We meet again, our audience, we will meet again to discuss pertinent issues for the development of ourselves and our nation. Stay blessed, Stay happy and stay productive. God bless you all. Have a nice day.